Hello, everybody. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mo, and I'm a Cuban artist based in Miami. Really excited to be here today with Paula.
Thank you so much for being here. So we definitely have a lot of questions about the art scene. Like we can start with the first one. So we know that Miami is very vibrant, it has a lot of color. It's like a life of the party all the time. So how has the city influenced your artistic style and themes?
For sure. So I am a Miami girl through and through. I was born and raised here, and I can't imagine living anywhere but here. I went to Gainesville for 2 years, and that was enough. But yeah, I like to say that I create mood boosting art and that my art reflects the energy of my Cuban culture, but also the life in 305. So from the concepts to the colors, you can really feel Miami's energy in all of my pieces.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. I mean, so we're really surrounded by all your art here already, and we'll definitely touch more upon what's on the table. So then we can jump into the next one. So as we know, Miami's like a melting pot of cultures, and it really shapes the art scene. What makes it so different from other cities?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that Miami is a melting pot of culture, like you're saying. And I think it really provides a platform for distinct voices and perspectives, which is really important because I, of course, am creating art inspired by my Cuban background. But if someone else sees it that's not Cuban, they're going to interpret it completely different. So I think that just opens a room for inspiration and creativity, which I think is so special. And yeah, I think Miami is so distinct from the rest of the US, and those different cultures is what really makes it so diverse and special.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you integrate like a big part of yourself. I'm sure this also ties in with like how you grew up, and we'll go into further on those questions. Alrighty, so as you know, Miami has a very colorful aesthetic, and so does your art. So I love your art, big fan.
Thank
and
you.
I was in this last year with for Art Basel. I went to we'll talk about the place that I went to.
It's so special that you passed by.
Yes, and I saw your art and I was obsessed with, especially I love cats. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. And it really caught my eye because of the colors. So this question really goes into the color aesthetic. Do you find yourself, drawing from these visual elements? Like what draws to you?
Yes, so Miami is my muse for sure. I love to say that. And Miami, of course, has a lot of inspiration from the Caribbean, from Cuba to Puerto Rico. And you look at things like the turquoise waters in the ocean, the vibrant tropical flowers are so beautiful. Even the buildings and the colors of paint that they use for the different homes and stuff like that, all of it is so vibrant. And you see a lot of that reflected in Miami also. I actually visited Puerto Rico recently, and I felt like home. Even though I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm Cuban. It was so special to be immersed in that tropical Hispanic culture. I haven't been able to visit Cuba yet, but one day I hope I do. Unfortunately, because of its communist state, I haven't gone because I don't want to support the government and all of that. But for the time being, I think Puerto Rico has really helped fill that gap, and it inspires me so much. And hopefully one day I can visit Cuba to go back to my homeland. And, a lot of the stories that my family shares about Cuba and how beautiful it is, I saw a little bit of that in Puerto Rico, and I think it's the closest thing to Cuba. So it was just so special, and it really inspired me. Actually, the cat painting that you love so much, I have a really funny story because this was my second time in Puerto Rico, but my first Puerto Rico visit, I went with my boyfriend and my sister, so it was the three of us. And I can actually grab the cat painting afterwards if we want to show it, so I can show the different the illustration compared to the story. But essentially, it's 4 cats with a disco ball. And we were in Puerto Rico one night, and of course, everyone knows you can go perrear in Puerto Rico, dance and have fun. And I was really excited to do that. And my sister and my boyfriend were more on the side of like, oh, let's go out early. And I was like, I don't know, I feel a little uneasy. The party always gets vibing when it's later. And I was right, because we went to a bar and it was literally just me, my boyfriend, my sister, and the bartender. So it was cuatro gatos. And if anyone knows that saying, it means 4 cats, but it's a saying that means like no one's really there. There's only 4 cats. So hilarious. I was really inspired to make a painting of that scene with the disco ball and 4 actual cats, different colors. So I really love that piece. It's really special to me. So when you told me you loved it, it just was really special.
Yeah, like it draws you in because of the colors. Like whenever I appreciate art, it takes me back to my time when I was in college and you learn art appreciation. So like what was the message? Now I know what was the message behind your piece. It has like a story tied into it.
Absolutely.
So you're really now it really is like, oh, I'm now in that scene that you lived. So that's really cool.
For sure. And that's what makes art so special, right? Like I had a story behind it, but you saw it and maybe you had a completely different feeling or different story that you resonated with or reminded you of. So yeah, that was awesome. That Puerto Rico trip. And honestly, I truly feel like I'm an island girl and I belong in an island. So one day maybe I might make a move there. But yeah, island culture and that life really inspires me and my art. As you can see, the palm trees, the ocean, the colors, everything is always reflected in my art.
That's very nice. And we'll definitely touch upon that, like your inspirations and everything like that. So we have Miami's landscapes. When you think of like the beach, the neon lights, the Art Deco, I mean, the urban grit, I think of Wynwood, but now also the Bird Road Art District.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Many different parts of it. How do you like, appear in your art? Like, how does that show?
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny that you're asking this question because the other day I realized, whoa, I add a lot of blue into my art. And I realized that subconsciously the ocean has been really inspiring me. And I'm always adding that into my artwork. I'm also a Pisces, so I love the ocean and marine life. So I just belong in the ocean. If I could be a mermaid, I would be. But yeah, I think that's what really sets Miami apart from every other US city. It's like those tropical vibes and the ocean. So all of that is constantly inspiring me, and the neon lights, even, from the way that people dress to the nightlife, Miami is so vibrant and it's like a jolt of energy when you come to the city.
And I get that. I mean, literally, not only is it just visually, like you walk across the street randomly, it doesn't necessarily have to be Little Havana. There's music playing. It's always a party, you know?
Yeah.
So now the local art scene, one of the biggest things. So Miami's famous for Art Basel, as we know. How do you feel about Miami's role in the global art world?
Yeah. So I honestly love that Miami is a hub for this international art scene. It's really become a place where art enthusiasts come and discover art. And personally, it's my favorite season of the year. I get so inspired from all the fancy art fairs to just street artists who come out and put their art out on the sidewalk. It's super inspiring. And if you think Miami has energy on a regular basis, Miami during Art Week is Miami on steroids. But of course, global events are really important. It's shedding a light on Miami and the community, even helping our economy. However, I think it's really important to keep giving those opportunities to local artists and the local creative communities as well.
I got that. And I like this past Art Basel, I really wanted to immerse myself, not only in just, the typical Miami Beach scene, but it's like beyond that. The whole county really encompasses. And I could also say that for different forms of art, whether it's drag or maybe I also saw that. I also saw like within the Miami music, it's coming up soon. That's also its own form of art. So we have all of those ideas. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Totally.
All right. So the local art scene gets enough recognition out. Do you think they get enough recognition from the outside perspective? Like we're thinking more niche, like beyond just Wynwood, beyond the Leah art district. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. So, as much as Art Basel is really special to me and it puts Miami on the map as an art city, I think there's a lot of work to be done for the local artists. And sometimes I feel a little bit jaded too. Like it excites me, but it's like, why are we not seeing more Miami artists show up, But at the same time, it inspires me to want to create those spaces for things that I crave. Like, I would love to be more involved in Art Basel. And yeah, like you were saying, it really trickles beyond the beach, beyond Wynwood. We hosted our first Art Basel event at the Glass Bubble, which I'll get more into in a little bit. But I had my first solo exhibit and you passed by. I had a bunch of my paintings up. And that was the first time I was really able to show up as an artist in an event where people can come and appreciate my art and take it outside of my studio in my apartment so that people can enjoy it as much as I do.
Right. And it's just so awesome to I mean, would that area be considered West Kendall, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up there, and as a kid, I didn't really think that there would be an art hub at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be more feasible for other areas of Miami that maybe don't have that access. And that's one of my biggest goals, to one day open, like, even a little warehouse where I live, to open up. And yes, there is art districts, like, in a sense, where they have, shows and everything. But to really make the scene accessible, it would be like one of those places that is just an art hub.
Yeah.
For artists to be like, I can actually come and express myself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something that was really special last Art Basel 2 that I was part of are these pop-ups by these local artists. I was part of this show called the Beach Towel Show.
I heard about that one.
It was really cool, and it was ran by a Miami artist, Brian Butler, and it was very guerrilla marketing style, where the event took place on the sand outside of one of the bougiest art fairs. And we just all came and put our towel on the sand, and it immediately became a gallery on the sand. And there were a bunch of Miami artists who came out. There were some artists from out of town as well, but we're not that exclusive. We love our out of towners as well. But I think it was really special what Brian put together. There were a bunch of different communities that came, like the Miami Art Society. Also, a photographer had a pop up doing his thing too. So I hope to see more of that in Art Basel in the future, because Miami artists do deserve that space. There's so much raw talent. And going back to what we were saying earlier about the mix of cultures, we want to give all of those different kind of people a platform and a space to show off their art.
And I get it 100%. So we have, what are your favorite Miami-based artists or artistic communities?
All right, so I hope the Oscar music doesn't cut me off, because I have a long list of people to recognize right now. But I have to start off, of course, with the people who I love and I have relationships with. I think first and foremost, shout out to my mom. She's an artist and, of course, gave me the creative blood. So she's always inspired me to become an artist. And now after years of not doing art, she's finally doing art again, because she's inspired by me, which is so special. And then also my boyfriend, my partner, Alex, he's a glass artist as well. And he actually inspired and motivated me to create my art page, because for a long time, I didn't feel like I was worthy to call myself an artist. And he was like, wait a minute, you make art, that makes you an artist. So stop playing around and get to it. So he's really talented, and I've always really been inspired by his ambition. And another one of my really close friends is a graffiti artist. He goes by Logs. And honestly, you can't drive around Miami without seeing his art, whether that be his stickers of his little dog cartoon or his tag of Logs. It's really inspirational to see the art taking over Miami. I think one day I'm going to have to follow him on his graffiti 19 and maybe tag up something of mine. But yeah, I think graffiti artists really do inspire me because they take over. Specifically, Atomic and 8-Hole have both been really big artists that I've studied and appreciated how they've shown up in Miami.
Right.
I work at a public relations agency and I'm a creative director, so I really appreciated how they developed their own brand or logo with their mark. So Atomic with his orange, 8-Hole with his eye. So that's what really made me think about what's my mark, what's my brand. And that's how the Mueca came to be. And now I really add her on a bunch of my pieces. And she's so special to me. I am her, she is me. And yeah, so the graffiti artists have been one realm of artists that have really inspired me. But also I have to give my shout out to the artists who are really inspired by Miami and show the Miami culture through their art. So first are a set of twins. They're called Sarah and Sam. Shout out. They're twins, and they also have a twin ceramic studio. And they have really cool art because they mix 90s culture. So think like Tamagotchi vibes with Miami vibes, but also a mix of anime as well. So it's like these three elements that come together really cool. And last but not least, Melissa from West of Chester.
Oh my gosh, her book. Sorry, I just had that's escaped me. I'm obsessed.
Yes, the ABCs of Miami, and she does a lot of nostalgic illustrations. And it's more of like, if you know, you know. Like if you're from Miami, you really appreciate her artwork because she creates art about Dandy Bear, which is so special to me. Flanagan's, Casa de los Trucos, so many different or OG Miami things that she's giving a light to. So all of those artists, and honestly more, I'm constantly inspired. I feel so special to have a group of friends that are really creative and we're always pushing each other. And hopefully in the future, maybe we can do a big show together or, keep doing these awesome projects, because collaboration over competition, that's something I really believe in.
And it also goes in hand with quality versus quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. In the whole art scene. And you mentioned some really iconic artists, in my opinion. So my page, just to give a little context, it really gives like a backbone or like a case study of Miami. So I've been doing it. So the podcast itself has been going on for a year, but the actual Paus Picks, that coverage of the Miami scene, I've been doing it since 2023. Now we're in 2025. And so everybody you've mentioned is like so familiar to me that I've seen them and I feel that sense of inspiration. So it's definitely like, wow, it's like really clicks, really gives you that.
Yeah. The Miami art scene is growing and we're taking over. So watch out.
I mean, it's so like iconic in and of itself. Speaking of other iconic things, so hidden gems in Miami. So we have galleries, studios, creative spaces that more people should know about. What are some more places?
All right, so selfishly, I have to plug in the Glass Bubble. We were just talking about Glass Bubble. It's Miami's only glass art studio, and it was founded by my boyfriend, Alex, and I've been helping him grow it ever since. We started the space in 2020 during the pandemic, which was very, scary because we don't know what was going to happen next, but we kept going, and it's been so rewarding. And now we're expanding to Art Bubble, where now I'm leading more of that charge, and we're offering different creative workshops for people who may not feel like they are artists or creative themselves, but we want to give them a space to just have fun and create for creating's sake. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a cafetera class where everyone got together and DIY'd their own little sculpture. Some of them look kind of like this. And it was just a blast. And I hope to do more of that and bring different creative workshops, as well as bringing in my creative friends, maybe doing a graffiti class, a pottery class with some of my ceramic friends. And yeah, I think it's such a special hidden gem. And I hope everyone comes to check out Glass Bubble and Art Bubble.
I love that. And it like, for me, it's like the more I find these places, it's like it starts opening that accessibility that I brought up earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just keeps growing, and it keeps empowering people to continue doing art, because like what you said, sometimes it's really hard to like believe in yourself. Like you feel like you're criticizing yourself, or, I feel it myself. Like I feel like I'm not good enough as an artist, but I love art, appreciate art. I've drawn, but I also am hard on myself. So we'll talk about that later. So here we have, so Miami has a city of reinvention where people come to build new lives. It's really fast paced now. Does this theme of transformation show in your work?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, first of all, transformation lives inside of me because my family were Cuban refugees who left Cuba because of the dictatorship, and they had to completely transform their lives and reinvent themselves. They moved to Mexico and then Miami, and each time was a brand new start. So that lives inside of me, and that resilience, which I really honor, and I feel so indebted to my family for sacrificing themselves so that I can have a life where I can pursue my dreams and not worry about the government. It's insane, but having freedom here in our country is so special, and I feel like I won the lottery just by being born here, and it's all because of their sacrifice. So yeah, it lives inside of me, but also I want to use this opportunity to explain a little bit about my muecas.
Yes.
So a mueca, when you translate it to English, it just means a facial expression. And I've always been a very expressive person. If you haven't noticed, I have a really big smile when I'm upset. You can probably tell too, like very obviously. So the muecas represent who I am and how you show up in different faces and roles in your life, and how you always have to transform yourself based on where you are, who you're talking to, what you're doing. So for myself, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm helping create a studio space, I'm a creative director at an agency, I'm a friend. There's so many different faces that you need to show up with, and I think it's really special to know that you can always reinvent yourself and transform to where you have to be so that you are following your dreams and just showing up for yourself.
I love that. That shows like your personality, your goals, you yourself as a creative. It's so, and you see it in like they're very vibrant faces, you know?
Totally.
So if like for someone who maybe doesn't know what a mueca is, this is an introduction to a mueca. And as the reality is that Miami is bringing in a lot of people. And we can talk about that later, which is the layers of like, how do we introduce now more people who are coming into Miami because it's so bougie or, you know, anything like that. But how can we show them these roots that we as Latinos have established? You know, Miami is a bubble in and of itself, you know, and it can't just change automatically to what we really are. You know, we have our cafecito time, you know, there's some cultural norms that we need to just hold on to because that's what makes Miami so special.
I agree 100%. Yeah. And if you look to another little fun fact about the muecas, if you look at them, they're always all over the place. Some are upside down, some are sideways, because that reflects who you are, right? Like sometimes you're doing great in one role, and then the other you're like, kind of backwards on this one, but I'm going to transform and come back to it. So yeah, absolutely. Everything you're saying is preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, does your art as a reflection of Miami's energy, or does it contrast the energy that Miami gives?
So if I haven't convinced you enough, it's definitely a reflection from the colors to even the concepts. I focus on a lot of Cuban dichos. And so funny things that my grandparents used to say, or like Cuban culture. I create illustrations and artwork inspired by that. So yeah, I live and breathe Miami, and you can really see it throughout my artwork for sure.
That's amazing. All right. So how do you navigate being an artist in the city that's also such a huge tourist destination?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people sometimes hate tourists, or like they're like frowned upon, right?
Yeah, I see it.
I've seen you're taking over my space. But on the contrary, I feel like I appreciate tourists because I see them appreciate the little things that we take advantage of on a day-to-day basis. And recently, my friends from Chicago came to visit, and it was so special to be present in the moment with things as small as smelling Cuban coffee for the first time, like you were saying.
I mean, we have it right here.
Drinking it, yeah.
Let's take a little sip. Cheers. Very good.
So yeah, from drinking Cuban coffee to seeing the Miami Beach for the first time, it's special to see that little sparkle in their eye, and it makes me remember why Miami is so special,
right?
And why so many people are traveling from around the world to come visit Miami, because it is so special.
Okay, yeah, that's really nice. So now we're going to jump into the business and creativity. An artist and also a business owner, and you got many hats.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you balance the creativity and the demands of running, you know, all of these things at the same time?
Meditation. Meditation has
wellness
changed my life, being grounded and just, you know, focusing on faith over fear. So that has been completely transformative for me. But also, I'm really blessed to have an incredible partner. He is the backbone of Glass Bubble, and he's really helping us run towards our dream and create this amazing business that hopefully in the future we're both contributing to 100%. And it's such an exciting venture that we've been part of. And separately, I do work a 9 to 5. I'm a creative director at a public relations agency. So very corporate America vibes. I'm like, you know, very on during that 9 to 5. And it is very difficult when 5 o'clock comes along to turn that brain off and then turn on to be creative and helping Glass Bubble and even being there for my family. It's a big shift. And again, I think meditation helps give me that energy and helps me stay grounded. But also, I saw a quote the other day that really resonated with me, and it was from Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide.
305.
Mr. 305. Now he's Mr. Worldwide, because, you know, that's how Miami does. And his quote was, Paso corto, vista larga, which means small steps, long vision.
Okay.
So as long as I'm taking steps towards those dreams and everything that I want to accomplish, I know that I'm on the right track. And every day is going to be different. Some days I can take small steps, and some days I can spend the entire day focusing on my artwork. Every day is going to be different, but as long as I'm pushing towards what I want, I know that my spirit team and my angels have my back and are guiding me to where I need to go. So Faith over fear, for sure.
Wow, that's so powerful. Like you really connected on these themes of not just wellness, but like, like someone who represents Miami, Mr. 305 himself. I mean, he's always giving those tips. People are obsessed. I also want to say within the whole wellness community, I don't know if you've heard of Balance with Becky.
I haven't.
You need to definitely check her out because in my past episode in my podcast, she talked about how do you do your 9 to 5, right? But then what happens in the 5 to 9? And I'm quoting her because that is where, you can dedicate that time, as you said, creative, as a sister, as a daughter, all your roles in your life, they need to be prioritized because at the end of the day, this is the life you're living and you got to enjoy it. And so it's so nice that you bring that up. It brings that connection to a previous episode that I did.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something that I've heard in the past too that is really important is sometimes your 9 to 5 is funding your dream, and that's okay. Because you're an artist and you have a different job to help fund what you want to be in the future, that doesn't make you less of an artist. And that's something I had to learn the hard way.
That's so true.
Even though I have a creative job, I'm a creative director, my dream is to be full-time in my own art, in my own brand, but I've learned so much in that 9 to 5 that has helped me grow these other side hustles. So it's been a lot of synergy, and I have a lot to be thankful for that opportunity as well.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So we have here, what advice can you give artists to establish themselves in Miami?
I think the biggest thing is believing in yourself, right? Okay. You're always going to be, you're either your biggest critic or your biggest cheerleader, right? You have to choose which one you want to be. And if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will.
Right.
And each individual has their own unique path. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, it's too late for me. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, look how far behind I am. Everyone has their own path, and you have to trust the process.
I got it.
And going back to wellness, I think something that really helped me push through that imposter syndrome is the book called The Artist's Way. It's an incredible book, and it's a book, but also a workshop because there's a lot of questions, and it forces you to really dig into yourself and answer the hard questions.
Right.
And at the premise, the book teaches how the notion that creativity is not something that only some people have. We all have creativity in us, and if that's something you want to pursue, then do it. Why not? It's never too late, and you just gotta go and get it.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it. Everybody just do it. We can kind of put these two together. You would describe Miami as one artistic image. What would it be?
All right, so I'll have a prop here for the audience, and it's my disco cafetera. I think everyone knows how Miami this is. So, of course, it's a disco representing nightlife. It's a cafetera, the Cuban culture, the coffee, the Hispanic element. So this for me is Miami is in its essence. It's also my favorite cafetera. And I have a bunch of them, but this one is very special because it's just so Miami, and I'm obsessed with it.
I love it because, like you said, Miami is a party, but we also just connect back to our roots, like coffee, and I was like really surprised because I had like a cultural experience where I was having coffee, and then I had some people who don't have coffee, and I offered them coffee, and they were like, "No, I don't want it." And it's like, whoa,
that's an insult. No, I'm kidding.
No, and it really feels, and I would genuinely say that because it's like for us, that's like a sign of respect. It's a sign of like community, connection. So
even between different Hispanic groups too, right? Like, it's not just Cubans. Like like Colombians, everyone loves coffee, and we all have that in common. So I think that's a beautiful thing to bring us together, even though we are different. Some people forget that they all put us in one group. We also have a lot of similarities.
That's right. Alrighty. So where can people find your work? Unless you have any other things anything else you would like to add before we enter the last part of you plugging in your socials?
No, that's okay. I think it's been super special so far, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in my art, you can find me on Instagram, Mo Art, Mo Problems with Z. I like to be funny, so that's a part of me. One of my favorite parts of art is sparking joy in others. So of course, my name's gotta spark some joy. And also look out for art bubble workshops and events. I also have a website, moreartmoreproblems.com. So yeah, please reach out. I love to collaborate, and I would love to meet anyone that's watching this video. And thank you for watching.
Well, thank you so much again.